Sanchia of Provence was the third daughter of Ramon Berenguer IV, Count of Provence, and Beatrice of Savoy. Sanchia was described as of incomparable beauty. Like Sanchia's sisters Margaret, Eleanor and Beatrice were the respective wives of Louis IX of France, Henry III of England and Charles I of Sicily. Sanchia was said to have a softer and more winsome type of good looks than either her older sisters, Margaret and Eleanor, Countess of Cornwall. It was Eleanor of Provence who arranged a marriage between her sister Sanchia and her brother-in-law Richard, 1st Earl of Cornwall, whose first wife Isabel Marshall had died recently. At the time, Sanchia was engaged to Raymond VII of Toulouse, but the weak part he played in the recent fighting was a good enough excuse for breaking the bond. Eleanor and Sanchia's uncle Peter was sent to negotiate the marriage contract in 1242. Another uncle, Philip, escorted Sanchia safely to the English court in Gascony. There they joined Eleanor and Henry, and met the new daughter Beatrice. The wedding took place at Westminster on November 23. Richard, although the wealthiest man in the Kingdom of England and perhaps in Europe, was only a prince, not a sovereign. Beatrice of Savoy, mother of the bride, came to England to see her third daughter wedded, but her father Ramon Berenguer IV was detained by state difficulties which his wife solved by getting a loan from Henry III of 4,000 marks. The cost of the wedding was chiefly defrayed by a levy imposed on the Jews of the country. It was an arbitrary proceeding, each of them receiving notice of the size of the donation required. An idea of the extravagance of the festivities may be gleaned from the fact that 30,000 dishes were prepared for the wedding dinner alone. The marriages of the royal brothers from France and England to the four sisters from Provence improved the relationship between the two countries, which led up to the Treaty of Paris. Sanchia was present, along with all her sisters and her mother, Queen of the Romans. Richard was elected in 1256 as King of Germany by a majority of the 7 electoral princes, with the title of King of the Romans, a preparatory step in being named Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope. In January 1257, the ambassadors bringing the news of Richard's election were received in a long hall where Richard and Sanchia were dining in considerable elegance and state. Richard rose to hear what the men from Bohemia had to say, and at the finish he burst into tears. He would accept the crown, he said, but it was not through greed or ambition. His sole object was to assist in restoring prosperity to the German states. His honest desire was to rule justly and well. It was clear to the German delegation, and to the throng of adherents and servants who swarmed into the hall to listen, that he was happy over the fulfillment of his great wish. It must have been quite apparent also that Sanchia was delighted beyond measure. Now she would be a queen as well as her 2 elder and patronizing sisters. Sanchia was crowned Queen of the Romans with her husband on the 27th of May 1257 at Aachen Cathedral in Germany. She and her husband then spent 15 months traveling in the area near Mainz. They hurriedly traveled back to England when the political situation deteriorated there. Sanchia grew ill in the autumn of 1260 and died a year later, with her son Edmund present. Sanchia had 2 sons with Richard of Cornwall. Edmund, 2nd Earl of Cornwall, married Margaret de Clare, childless. Son of Richard and his mistress Joan de Valtort, occasionally listed as the son of Sanchia. Richard of Cornwall, who married Joan Sintoan and had children. He, however, died at the siege of Berwick-upon-Tweed in 1296. Sanchia died the 9th of November 1261 at Berkhamsted Castle and was buried in Hales Abbey. Ancestry.